Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this morning's webinar, switching to Wolters Kluwer. Solutions for today, which is our on-premise software that my colleague Lee Bennett is going to be talking us through this morning, and innovation for tomorrow, which is going to be all about our cloud roadmap and what the future holds for Wolters Kluwer CCH software. Today's session will be about an hour. No longer than that. There is a Q&A box if you'd like to ask any questions. We'll try and pick those up in the end for you. And we're also recording the session, and we'll share that with you a little bit later on. My name is Ian Morgan. Good morning to you all. I'm joined this morning by our head of pre-sales, Lee Bennett. As I mentioned, Lee is going to be taking us through a demonstration of CCH. Which will probably, that part of the session will take up the bulk of this morning's hour, so probably 40 minutes or so of Lee showing you around CCH, and then I'll just finish up at the end by telling you a little bit about our cloud roadmap. So we'll introduce CCH Central and some of the bundles that go with that. As I said, Lee will take us through a demonstration, and then we'll finish up with the roadmap at the end. Just to start off by telling you a little bit about CCH. So the central part of CCH is actually the central database. It enables you to run workflows, track all your client and contact information. So it's not just clients that you can put into CCH. It is a fully functioning CRM type system that you can put all your contact data in as well, and then you can market to those contacts, turn them into clients when they sign up for your services. So everything is available from CCH Central. It is a single database. And whichever module you buy, so if you buy accounts production only, or you only want to buy tax, then CCH Central comes as a part of that. So you get all the functionality that goes with that. As well as some of the features that I've mentioned, there's really efficient and comprehensive reporting available, both out of the box and reporting that can be customized by you to suit the types of graphs and charts and reports that you want to produce from the system. So all in all, it lends to a quicker way of working, as it means you can control your work and see everything in one central place. As I've mentioned, today we're going to be looking at the CCH Central on-premise solution. As part of that, we're going to be looking at accounts and tax, of course. We're going to be looking a little bit at our one-click solution, which is the portal where you can share information and documents with your clients and then ask them to approve them and sign them. That part, as you can see in blue there, is part of our compliance pack. And the packs are a way of purchasing CCH, which is licensed on client numbers. So there are a couple of different ways of buying CCH. This tends to be the method in which practices of up to 2,000 clients tend to buy the product. So you can buy it in starting off maybe with less than 25 clients if you're a really small business, and you can buy 25, 50, maybe 100 clients, 200 clients, and then you can go up in blocks of 200 up to 1,000, and in blocks of 250 clients up to 2,000. So it's a really easy way of purchasing CCH, getting all the functionality that you need, all embedded into one central database using the CCH packs. Now, as I've mentioned, the compliance pack comes obviously with the basic tax and accounting compliance modules, or you can enhance that by purchasing a practice pack. The difference being that you get CCH practice management, bearing in mind that CCH practice management is what we term the timesheets and the billing element of CCH. So some people think of practice management as that sort of central database. What I've just described to you as central, CCH Central, that comes as part of the solution anyway. So CCH practice management is time and billing, and that also includes a lot of reporting that you would expect to see and expect to need when you're looking at things like WIP and debt. Graphs and charts, Lee will show us that in a few minutes. To enhance either the compliance pack or the practice pack, you could also decide to purchase CCH document management. This is where you can store all types of documents, obviously documents that are created by CCH, sets of accounts, tax returns, mail merge letters, all can be automatically stored into the document management system, but you may also choose to store documents from outside of CCH, and you can also choose to store emails from Outlook, for example, and those can be stored automatically if you wish, or you can choose which emails you want to store. So essentially, what you're doing there is creating, one central area where you can see all the documents for each of your clients, and because of the nature of CCH Central, that view is available from within the client screen. And again, that's something that Lee will show us in a few minutes' time. So just to recap then, CCH packs, anything from 1 to 2,000 clients, really easy, simple way of getting yourself on the ladder of using all the fantastic functionality that's available from within CCH Central. So with no more ado, I'm going to come back at the end and talk to you a little bit about the roadmap and about cloud. Lee's going to touch on that as well, but I'm going to hand over to Lee Bennett, and Lee will take us through a demonstration of CCH Central, incorporating all those modules that I've just talked to you about. Over to you, Lee.
Thanks, Ian. Morning, everyone. Let me start by sharing my screen. And just by way of a brief introduction to myself, my name is Lee Bennett, as Ian introduced me. I am Head of Pre-Sales at Wolters Kluwer, and I've been helping accountants and tax advisors, people in practice, for just over 25 years now, with the implementation of various different solutions over the years. Prior to that, I was in practice myself for probably 5 or 6 years. So I know my way around a practice, I know my way around a set of accounts and a tax return. Although doing one live, I generally only do one a year, which would be my own. The solution that I'm going to be obviously showing today is CCH Central, along with CCH One Click and an introduction with CCH iFirm. So it's my role to bring to life the software and the solutions that we deliver to our customers to help them improve their practice efficiency. As we go through part of the webinar, there is a chat feature and there is a Q&A feature as well as part of Zoom. So if you have any questions along the way on anything that I'm showing, there's 3 of us online within our end, which will be looking to see what questions or what comments people have been dropping in along the way, and we'll hope to answer any or all of them as we go through. So the actual screen that I'm showing at the moment is part of CCH Central. It's an example of what we would call a home page, or some people call them a dashboard. And the premise is quite easy, really, hopefully to understand, in that everyone within the practice can either design for themselves or have designed for them a series of these dashboards to enable them to get through their day, to enable them to perform their role, to get to the information that they need to perform a task. It is technically possible to have any number of home pages available. I'm up to about 16 or 17 for various reasons. It's probably more the norm that you would probably have 4 or 5 of these dashboards rather than the number of I have. And as we go through, I'm probably only going to be showing you maybe 2 or 3 of these. But again, if anyone has any particular requirements, if you want to drop them into the chat or the Q&A, I'm happy at the end, if we've got time, to drop in if any of them catch your attention and you want to have a bit of a deep dive into them, we can. Now, Again, one of the ideas of the home pages, the dashboards, is to deliver the information from wherever it may sit within our suite of products. So it's not just the information relating to the client record. It may be something to do with time and fees, which is the majority of what we can see today on this particular homepage. It may well be something to do with accounts. It may be something to do with tax. It may be something to do with document management. But the idea is, regardless of the role that you have within the practice, there will be some information, even if it's just a list of timesheets, that you can have easy access to then take you through to the actual task regarding the role that you're performing at that point in time. The dashboards themselves, by their very nature, are always up to date as of the last transaction. So again, on this particular homepage, it would be when timesheets are posted or when bills are raised. The lists that you see will go up and down, or when new tasks are either completed or assigned to me as an individual. So the home pages are very much personal to me. I've designed them with the data that I wish to see. It's not just a case of it's a general practice level view, although obviously that is available as well, but it's really my personal dashboard of the things that I've chosen that I want to see. They're also interactive. So in this case, where we show a graphical representation of the data, so things like the age WIP and the age debt and the budget variance, if I were to just simply double click, that's probably the quickest and easiest way to perform an age WIP analysis, and you'll see that it opens up a new tab within CCH Central to get me to that information as quickly as we need to. And depending on, again, what the next task happens to be, up at the top on my ribbon bar, there is an option for me to go straight into the billing wizard. So if I've recognized and I've analyzed and I decide that there's a particular client or clients that I want to bill at this point in time, without having to go any further into the software, any further into the client record, I've got all the information that I need to make that decision and to perform that particular task. You'll see that as I open up new windows, they actually open up as new tabs within CCH Central, and that kind of philosophy works right through the rest of our suite. And each of those tabs can be accessed completely independently. They can be closed completely independently, and they can actually be detached and moved onto separate screens. So almost just like using a web browser these days, there's more than one piece of information that you need quick and easy access to. There is a way to do that within our suite. You'll also notice throughout the software, we'll show the information as hyperlinks. So if it's blue and it's underlined, again, just like using a web browser, it's probably the quickest and easiest way to get to the underlying information. If I wanted to see information relating to a particular task on my task list, just click on the blue hyperlink on the subject and I'm straight there. And I've got various options to allow me to complete or reassign or add notes to this particular task, for example. One of the other home pages I've got access to is jobs in progress. And this actually allows me to see the progress that I'm making throughout a particular process. In this case, my preferred view for this particular homepage as a starting point is to be able to monitor and also complete where we are within the personal tax return process. And quite quickly and easily, I can identify on here that within my practice, as it stands at the moment, I've got 17 returns that are currently in progress. Some of them still relate to 2023. We can see those because that's the grouping that I've chosen, and we can see that they're all overdue, not only because they're 2023, but because the deadline date where I'm showing that is also red. And where I've got tax year 2024, we can see how far along we are. I can identify who the relevant person is that's responsible for preparing those tax returns, because that's going to be logged within CCH Central along the client. And I can easily see, because I've chosen my preferred view, which of these elements have been marked as completed, or in fact, which ones are still in progress. If I was to prefer, I can actually change it so that I can show the dates. So if the monitoring of your progress, whatever that process happens to be at the moment, is done within something like Excel, you'll see that we almost replicate it within our software. But because it's within the software, we're able to build on any processes. We can build in automation, for example. We can automate the delivery of the task to the right person at the right place. We can build automation to calculate any deadline dates, both for the ultimate tax return itself or any of the individual milestones. And hopefully it goes without saying that the milestones that I'm tracking on here, where I've got request, PT info received, prepare PT return, etc., that can be configured for your practice. This is just a standard CCH template that we've put in place. Now, workflow itself is actually part of CCH Central. So Ian's described CCH Central as being the database and the hub of everything we do, which it is. It is your starting point to all of the different elements within our software suite. But Central itself has shareable components that each of the individual modules can then make use of, workflow being one of them. So we can use, and you can use workflow to monitor any particular task. In this case, as I said, my preferred view at the moment is to show the CCH personal tax returns. But in the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see a list of other templates that I've got installed on my system. You can have as many or as few as you require. And again, it's probably worth pointing out that actually you don't need the CCH component to be able to track it. I've got payroll in here, for example, CCH monthly payroll. Wolters Kluwer do not provide payroll software in the UK, but that doesn't stop me from being able to track the progress that I'm making in one solution. So you've only got one place that you need to go to. You don't need to go to lots of different places just because you're tracking different elements. Now, if I just flick into a client record, and probably the quickest way to do that is obviously using any hyperlinks that I've got, either on this particular homepage, or if I pop back to my main dashboard, where I've got Jack Smith, for example. If I click on the client name in this case, you'll see that it will take me to the client record. Now, I already had it open in my case, but if I didn't, it would automatically open up that client record. The tabs that you see within a client record will represent the different areas of data or the different functionality that is available within a client record. And it's within here that we're not only storing the data that you would expect, things like names and addresses, because at its heart, it is a client and contact database, but it's also where we are accessing the other products, effectively the other modules within our suite. So you'll see instances of accounts production within here. You'll see tax returns within here. You'll see document center, for example, within here, and bills, and obviously a number of other tabs. And each one represents where you would go to carry out that action. Now, probably not for today. I'm not going to go through every single tab that you can see on the screen because we only have a finite number of minutes. I've got about 40 minutes. Or probably about 20 minutes left of that. So it is going to be a bit of a whistle-stop tour through some of the tabs to give you a bit of an indication, a bit of an idea as to what we do and how we do it. Probably the first tab that I'm going to go to is actually what I've called my profile tab. The profile tab stores what we call extra fields. And the extra fields are your bit of the database that you can fully design the data that you wish to hold, that you wish to know about your particular clients. And you'll see some of the examples that I've got in here. They can just be pieces of static information. They're generally not probably going to change. I'm tracking in here, for example, things like industry type. And that is going to be, in my case, a drop-down pick list because it makes life easier to then report on, to do any kind of data mining. You'll also see I've also got one called preferred method of contact, and that's currently set to CHH one-click. CHH one-click is the name of our portal that we use to communicate to various third parties. One of those would be a document exchange facility for obviously document sharing and approval. And because I'm tracking that within an extra field, it also means that we can start to automate some tasks. And this is where, again, workflow can come in, because not only can workflow automate things like the deadline and who's responsible, but it can also start to automate various actions so that we, as users, don't have to remember, or actually don't have to do them ourselves. We just get the software to do it for us. So this particular screen can hold any number of different extra fields of different types. It could be free format text. You'll see that I've got some numeric numbers, some numeric data within here that I can report on. It's got drop-down pick lists, it's got tick boxes, it's got dates to give you a bit of a wide view. And what I'll do, I'll come back to the end and we'll have a look at things like data mining and what we can do with that data to enable the gain of efficiencies for your practice. Next, I'm going to skip over to responsibility. Responsibility seems fairly straightforward because it's how you can manage your client lists. Who's responsible for each of the clients in terms of the partner or the manager or the tax preparer. Back on my homepage for workflow, I was showing the tax preparer. So it enables me to allocate clients to these responsibility types and therefore to the named users within the software. But it's not only used for that. Again, you can use it for workflow, but you can also use it for security. And you can also use it to allow which of your team members that you might or might not want to allow to communicate via CCH one-click, via this document portal. So this is where it all brings that data and the functionality together. Next, I'm going to skip a couple of tabs. I'm going to go to accounts production. This is where we actually are going to go to produce a set of accounts. So everything is in one place. We refer to this as being very much a client-centric approach to the way that you work. You choose the client, then you choose the activity. In this case, this is just an unincorporated sole trader. They've got a number of different accounting periods already set up and in progress, I guess, although some of them have already been finalized. We can see that from the summary screen. I'm just going to go into my 31st of the 12th, 2023 accounting period. And again, you'll see accounts production, it just opens up as a new tab. And each of these tabs then work completely independently. There's nothing stopping me opening up, for example, a different set of accounts for a different client, or for this client for a different year. Those tabs will just open up and I can switch in and out of any that I need to. I don't need to close anything that I'm doing or stop what I'm doing to then continue with the next action. Now, in terms of accounts production, I guess first things first, we need to get data into the software. You'll see that I've already got a trial balance. In this case, we can link to various third-party bookkeeping tools, either directly using, again, CCH one-click as our connection to the third party. So things like Xero or QuickBooks, Sage and Free Agent, we have direct connections to those bookkeeping solutions to enable transactions to be, or trial balances, to be directly synced from one to the other. So there's no rekeying of data. We do also have the ability to import via a CSV file. So if there's any, probably more these days, kind of desktop-based bookkeeping products, as long as you can export the data out into a CSV or an Excel spreadsheet, that information can be brought in. Now, not in much in the way of data entry. In fact, I'm not going to do any kind of data entry at the moment, but you'll see that I do have a, I'm going to call it a draft trial balance. Over on the left-hand side, I've already created what we call advisor journals. In this case, these are going to be my year-end adjustments. And you'll see that I've just got 4 of them, journal 1, 2, 3, and 4, with various year-end adjustments that may need to be updated within my accounts, within my clients' accounts, for them to be considered final. Now, one of the reasons why I've posted them through as advisor journals is because over on the right-hand side, I can edit them, I can unpost them, I can also mark them as being approved. And actually, marking them as being approved allows me to then send them back into the cloud bookkeeping product. And you'll see at the moment, I've just got one that's been approved, and the others probably need to be reviewed by someone, and that decision has to be made. Before I do that, I might want to run a profit reconciliation report. And this will show me what's come in from the client. Again, whether it's via their bookkeeping solution, whether it's via incomplete records and we've just posted them as journals or receipts and payments, but it gives me that starting point. This particular client starting point wasn't a very good one. Results per the draft accounts where they were making a loss of £25,000. However, having identified some of those year-end adjustments, if all of them are going to be put through, then actually only a slight profit, but the results per the financial statements are going to show £181 profit. And if I'm happy for all of those to be posted back into one click, and therefore in this case 0, I can go through either one at a time, or I do have the ability to select them all and do them in bulk. I can mark them all as being approved, which will then send them and make them available to sync with Open Integration. Open Integration is just the name of the module that we use within CCH OneClick to pass the transactions to and from those cloud bookkeeping providers. To see the actual financial statements themselves, if I just flick back to financial statements at the bottom of the screen, the first page it's going to take me through to is a collection called Full Accounts. And it's within here that the system enables me in real time to produce a preview of each and every page of the accounts, whether or not actually they're going to be necessarily printed for this particular client based on the information that we've currently got. And we can see which ones are going to be included within the accounts with the little ticks on the left-hand side under the print column. You'll also notice that I've got my logo on the front cover. The system does allow you to do that. It does have a fully editable accounts formatting tool, which is a lot like a spreadsheet. It is a spreadsheet. It's a lot like Excel. So if you needed to change the underlying style, layout and format of any of the pages, we can go and do that, or you can go and do that. If I want to have a quick look at the profit and loss account, you'll see that's where it stands at the moment. There's the £181 that we know about, because those are the advisory journals that I put through. Compared to last year, slight loss, so much of an improvement. And I can go through every and each one of these pages, which obviously I'm not going to do today, just to see where we are. But that's not the only set of pages that we supply. We do have some management pages. We do have a management collection. So you can also see the detailed P&L. We've got schedules to the detailed P&L. We've got things like a 5-year summary, up to 5 years, depending on obviously the amount of data that you're holding. And we've also got a tax link schedule for sole trader. And obviously others will apply for other types of clients that you can set up within accounts production. But this will give you a breakdown of the information that the system is going to be passing through to personal tax without having to pass it through to start with. So we can see the totals and we can see the breakdown of the nominals that make up those totals, just to have a little view of them before we commit it to the tax return. And obviously, because it is going to be, an integrated system, that data, if we so choose, can be sent directly to the tax return without having to rekey that information. Now, in this case, I am going to go back to the full accounts. I'm going to send the accounts as they stand at the moment to my client. So at the top of the screen, you'll see that I've got various options to preview or publish these accounts. The one that I'm going to choose is publish to OneClick. And it's at this point where it will compile all of the pages, all of the notes that form the financial statements for this particular client, again, based on the information that it currently knows. It's then going to convert them into a PDF, and it's then going to attach them to a message. This message is going to be sent securely to my client, and I'm going to request and require that my client signs or approves, either one of those, this particular set of accounts. At this point, it is also possible for me to attach any other file, any other document that I want to include. So if there's a covering letter, if there's any other information, it could be that I actually also want to send a copy of the tax return at this point in time. Combined with the accounts, the system will allow me to do that. I'm not going to sit here and type anything. The system will provide me, and you can create your own message template, and then just click send. Now there's various other options that we can have within here. It could be that you have to send the accounts and the message itself through to an internal approval before it can get sent to the client. That can mimic any processes that you've currently got. And the message and the documents that have just been created will automatically then appear both within the message center, which is where all of the messages and all of the documents are going to be stored, and or also into the document center. The document center is where we store, where we have access to our document management system. So everything is then automatically captured, again, all in one place. Now, if I just come out of the account, so I'm going to, again, skip a couple of these tabs and go through to tax returns. And in a similar way, but obviously it looks slightly different from the accounts, if I go into 2024 tax return, this is what it looks like. So down the left-hand side, we've got the data entry menu containing the different sources applicable to this particular client's tax return. We can see the different status of completion of each of those sources. And on the right-hand side, we can see a live and always up-to-date tax calculation. Regardless of where you are within the tax system, regardless of where you are in terms of data entry, this screen, this summary tab, will always show you your client's current tax liability. Down at the bottom of the screen, we have what we refer to as being the errors and exceptions panel, or as I prefer to call it, actually, my review panel. It's going to show me where it is recommending that I go and review the information. And it splits it out into errors, warnings, and messages. Errors would physically stop me from filing this tax return online, for example. And you'll see one of those messages is it has detected that the accounts has been updated. Select this message to update business tax automatically. And if I want to, at this point in time, go and do that, because I've reviewed the accounts, I've reviewed that that file that came through earlier that I showed, I'm happy with that, the system will just go away and refresh. In a similar way, it's also detected that there's some R185 data that's not up to date. Click here to update, and I can go and update in exactly the same way. There is obviously a tax return that you can go and view on screen, and it will just open up as a separate tab, and we can work our way through. You can actually do your data entry from here. If there's a particular box that you know needs to be filled in, double click, it's going to take you through to the underlying data entry screen. So everything that we're doing is no more than a click or two away from actually completing that action. In a similar way to what I did with the accounts, when it comes to sending the tax return, I'm able to do that from within the software. And again, you'll see that there is a publish to one-click option up at the top of the screen. Just in the interest of time, I'm going to create the bundle. I'm going to show you what that looks like on screen. So what it is that I'm actually going to send the client, it's not just the tax return. I'm going to send them a 52-page PDF. And part of that 52-page PDF, in my case, is the covering letter, which has been created out of the data that we've currently got within personal tax, and you'll see I've got some facts and figures on here, red where payments are overdue, where we've got first and second payment on account that need to be sent, paid, and a little summary on page 2. The rest of it is going to be the tax return, the computation, and the backing schedules. But it's this automatic creation of the covering letter that's probably going to save a lot of time. We hear stories of people saving probably between 30 and 60 minutes per tax return minimum on the creation of this, and then backwards and forwards for it to be approved, backwards and forwards to make sure that these figures are the correct figures. So there's manual entry and obviously some checking, manual checking of that information. Back to the main client screen now. I'm going to go to the assignments tab. The assignments tab is going to give me a summary of the services that we provide, so accountancy, bookkeeping, inheritance tax, payroll, etc., etc. It's going to show me a summary of where we are for that particular assignment, for that particular service. And on the right-hand side, it's going to show me in monetary values how long we've spent on that particular service. So we've got the work in progress figures. We can also store budgets, both WIP budgets and fee budgets. So this will enable me to do a little bit of analysis. How long have we spent, but also who did the work and what their comments were on the timesheet. So we don't have to, again, we don't have to print or generate lots of reports. Everything is available on screen. And it's also from within here that we actually produce the actual bill and perform any write-ons, any write-offs, and again, send this information directly to our client. So it enables me to drill down to view the individual timesheets, or I can group it by assignment, I can group it by employee, which gives me the ability to then drill down to see again who's done the work and make my billing decision directly on screen. And then any and all bills that are created will automatically get filed under the bills tab in terms of the data that's been generated from within the system, and the actual physical documents would automatically then be stored under the document center. You'll see I've got bill number 96, for example, that I've previously generated, would automatically store within the document center. And again, like the tax and the accounts, can be automatically sent to the client. That's a bit of a whistle-stop tour of the main, I guess, components within CCH Central. I did mention things like data mining, so I'm going to quickly show you our reporting tool, or one of our reporting tools, which is where the data mining can be generated from, which is more than just the ability to create a report, but it also gives you the ability to carry out an action from here. So I'm going to show you a very simple query and how that can be generated. So I'm going to create a grid, and that grid can contain the fields from each of the individual modules within our suite. Most of the queries are going to start off from Central. They're probably going to contain the name of the client, but they might also contain, or you might also be interested in, the partner that was responsible. It might also contain some of those extra fields that we looked at. Either, again, because you want to be interested in looking at that information, or because you might want to query by that particular data as well. So I'm going to have a couple of in here. I'm going to have a look at the MTD solution that they're currently proposing to use for income tax and what they're already using for VAT. And I'm also interested in the preferred method of contacts. And you'll see that as I'm ticking the boxes, the actual query, the actual report will start to be generated over on the right-hand side. But as I said, we can combine this with the transactional data that we're storing within the database. Whether it's to do with accounts, whether it's to do with personal tax, whether it's to do with practice management, the time and fees element. So again, just a very quick example of this, if I go into tax returns, and I'm going to go and have a look at the tax computations, and I'm going to have a look at tax due or overpaid. Now, as I've added that in, it will default to the current year that we're in, 2025. I don't have any tax returns, obviously, yet for 2025, so that's why my screen has gone blank, but I'm going to deal with that in a moment or two. But I am going to combine it with a query from practice management, and I'm just going to pick out the debtor balance. And you should see that my list of clients goes back up again. I've now got 41, and I can then filter this. So it could be that I'm only interested in those clients who are using Xero, for example, as their MTD solution. Click apply. So out of all of those, I've then got 4. I can then mark all of those, and directly from Central itself, I can then go directly to our inbuilt mail and email merge solution, because having identified those 4 clients, I might want to communicate some piece of information to those based on the fact that they are using Xero as their MTD solution, and for whatever reason, I might want to include something to do with their debtor balance or their tax due or overpaid, if it was in 2024 or if I had commenced 2025 tax returns. So that's not only using the information to obviously carry out the function of your day-to-day usage. You do your accounts, you do your tax return, you need to produce bills, but then the added ability of using that data for something, I was going to say more interesting, something more interesting than just producing a set of accounts and a tax return. Now, I am able to give you a very quick overview of what we have at the moment within our cloud roadmap. We are at the moment transitioning parts of our solution from the traditional on-premise desktop facility, which is obviously what we're looking at the moment within CCH Central, and we are gradually going to be building out our cloud suite. So if I just minimize here and go into my browser, and I'm just going to click into CCH iFirm. As we've mentioned, CCH iFirm is the brand, the cloud name of our cloud suite. Cloud equivalent of CCH Central, if we want to call it that. As part of that, obviously, I'm going to be logging in with a username and a password. It is actually possible to launch directly from Central as well. And from within here, it then gives me access to the modules. You'll see here I've got access to personal tax in the cloud. I've got access to accounts production in the cloud. We also have an AML solution that's in the cloud. And each one of these, where necessary and where relevant, will read the information back to Central. So in all of these cases, it would be the end result. So the data is going to flow, the core name and address information is going to flow from Central to the cloud. You produce the PDF of the account or the tax or the results from your AML checks. That information can then flow back into CCH Central in terms of storing the end result within document management. So if I just flick into accounts production, first thing it's going to allow me to do from here, because I've gone in directly from the browser, is to go and pick a client. So I'm going to go into, I'll use Jane Riddle in this case. And you'll see it takes me directly to the overview page, and the overview page will give me on-screen validations. So kind of the equivalent of the errors and exceptions. It's going to alert me and show me where it thinks I need to go and review the information to make sure that it's in a fit and proper state. In this case, obviously, to produce a set of accounts. And it's also then going to give me a financial overview, both for the profit and loss and the balance sheet. And if there's further, more detailed information, I've got access to go into the profit and loss statement and the balance sheet directly from here. Then the left-hand side is where we have the equivalent of those different options within on-premise. Again, I'm not going to go through every single one of these for today, but you'll notice, for example, things like financial statements is where we are going to go to get to the equivalent of what we've seen, but this time it's in the cloud. So I can switch to and have a look at the profit and loss account. I can switch to and have a look at the balance sheet in exactly the same way that I did before. From within here, though, I can see that there are 3 validation checks, and it also tells me that on the right-hand side. And clicking on these will tell me what those are. So I've got something that's still sitting in suspense, both for this year and last year, by the looks of it. And it's also alerting me that the brought forward balance doesn't agree. So it's going to do those kind of validations and do those checks. In a similar, but obviously different way, I can go into personal tax. And I can start to have a look at personal tax in the cloud. So again, it's not too dissimilar to what we've already seen. We've got the data entry menu only showing the information relating to this particular client's data entry sources. I can see, again, the progress that we're making, how complete are each of these items, and obviously clicking on each of these will drill me down to the underlying data entry areas. I've also then got easy access to the tax return, and I've also then got easy access to the tax calculation, pretty much in exactly the same way that we had on premise. Obviously now it's being in the cloud, and again there is data integration between the accounts production and the tax, so not having to rekey the information from your self-employment, for example. Okay, I'm going to stop there. I'm going to hand back to Ian to go through the rest of the slide deck, and whilst I'm doing that, or whilst he's doing that, I'm going to be just checking on the chat and any Q&A. Ian, back to you.
Thank you, Lee. Now we've got to figure out how I'm going to share my screen with you again. I think I should be able to do that. So hopefully now you can see where we left off with the CCH packs. And we talked about what Lee has just showed you around the compliance pieces, how that all integrates with CCH Central, and then adding to that the time and billing element, which we call CCH Practice Management. So you can choose a compliance pack, or you can choose a practice pack with or without practice management, and then we have the document management at the end. Lee also dipped into our iFirm cloud solution. So just for your benefit, just to give you an indication as to where we are in that roadmap, we currently have CCH iFirm AML available, which is a cloud web browser-based solution, which links with the data that sits in CCH Central. So when you look for a client in CCH Central, as Lee has just shown you, there is an icon on the ribbon bar which you can click, which will take you out directly into a browser to be able to run that AML check on that client. And the result of that AML check is then populated back into CCH Central. We should also make the point clear that if you decided to come across to CCH Central today, it is the on-premise solution, which is, as you can see, a very mature, fully functioning, lots and lots of functionality and benefits of coming across to CCH. That is the solution that you would be using. As we move forward in 2025, you can see the next or the first iteration of iFirm will be accounts production for sole traders, which is due in the next few weeks, actually. As you can see there, sort of halfway through H1. We're just coming up to halfway through H1, so you'll see we'll see the launch of accounts production. That again will hang off CCH Central, and as we move through 2025, you'll see modules such as the personal tax, some partnership tax, onboarding, letters of engagement moving into 2026. And also in 2026, you'll see our document management and time and fees module become available. So there's a very high-level view of the iFirm roadmap. I think the key point being that should you decide to come across the CCH today, as I said, you would use the on-premise version, but you could choose as we go through the next 6, 12, 18, 24 months to pick out different modules that are in the iFirm roadmap that you might want to use, which tie back to CCH Central itself. So you could start using CCH as a hybrid model from later this year, really, if you chose to do that. Alternatively, of course, you could decide to stay with the on-premise solution until such time as all of these modules are available, as you can see, into 2027. So you could continue to use the on-premise version for the next couple of years and then move right at the end when you have everything available in the cloud. I dare say you wouldn't necessarily need to have the on-premise version at that point, at some point in the future. So that's where we are. You can see there at the bottom beta releases of MTD for income tax also being available before the half year is out. So I hope that makes a little bit of sense in terms of our roadmap to a cloud solution, and I hope that sort of whets your appetite in terms of being attractive to come across the CCH, knowing that you're going to be part of this transition. Just to finish up, we have quite an extensive onboarding program for all projects. We can assign project management, although that tends to be for some of the larger projects, but a project manager is available to help you manage your transition from your current solution across to CCH, should you wish it. That's obviously supplemented by our implementation and data migration services. We have an extensive e-learning library to help train you on the CCH modules. We do have one-to-one training as well, whether that be face-to-face, less regularly these days, face-to-face training, or more regularly via Teams, where we can have a trainer available to talk you through the various aspects of the module that you're getting training on. But as I say, there are an extensive e-learning library which is available for you as part of your subscription to CCH Central. So you don't pay any extra for the e-learning. We have a support portal where you can raise your own tickets and request callbacks, so you don't have to sort of call and wait in a queue. You just produce your ticket, generate your ticket, and then if appropriate, we will call you back or offer you a fix for your problem. Alongside that, there's the extensive knowledge base where, again, you can get access to lots and lots of information about CCH and about the current legislation and about how those two go hand in hand. And regularly we have regional user group meetings that you can be part of, which obviously shapes the way that shapes our development path, really. So if you wanted to be part of that and have an input into how CCH is developed going forward, then user group meetings is a good place to be. Just to finish up, there's a couple of events coming up next week at I think that's Battersea, the digital accountancy show, where we'll be at stand B12. You won't see me there, I'm afraid, but if you would like to come and say hello, there'll be plenty of my colleagues on the stand in Battersea next week. And then going into May, of course, the sort of main event really of the accountancy season is Accountex in Excel in London. I will be at that one, and that's on the 14th and the 15th of May. So we would look forward to seeing you at either of those events, or both potentially. So Lee has been monitoring the questions, which I must admit I haven't been. So maybe something just to pass back to Lee, just to finish up and just pick out anything there, Lee, that's worth sort of sharing with the group.
Yep, I've answered, there's been a few questions come through. I've answered them on the chat, but just to, I guess, speak them out. We had a question around the pricing, so I've directed them to the account managers. Obviously, it's based on a number of different factors: the number of clients, the number of users, and the modules that you're interested in. There is no trial version of CCH Accounts Production as such, but I've suggested that we can provide a fully detailed demo which can be hands-on if required. And we also had a question from Matthew around, is there a proposal solution that's on the desktop version? And I'll reply to that to say no. Currently, we have a cloud-first strategy going forward, so it will be developed within CCH iFirm, as with all the different modules and add-ons that we are proposing going forward. But where it does make sense for us to do so, we can and will integrate within CCH Central. So if there's any existing data that we might want to use going forward, or if there's any output in terms of PDFs, for example, we can then store them back into CCH Central in a similar way to what we've done with AML. There was a question around how much on average is the monthly subscription if we go for the full CCH Central package, such as sole traders, partnerships, charities, CICs, and limited companies. That is probably more one for you, Ian, with prices.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Obviously, there isn't an average because it will depend really on your client numbers, and just to sort of give you an indication of what we consider a client. So a limited company is one client, and for that limited company, you might produce a set of accounts and a corporation tax return. That is considered one client. If you then have a couple of directors in that limited company that you do personal tax work for, each of those directors are also considered a client. So in that example, that would be 3 clients, the limited company itself and the 2 directors that you're doing personal tax work for. So a total of 3 clients. And then the pricing is based around that. And as I said right at the start when we talked about the CCH packs, the first pack available is just 25 clients, 50 clients, 100 clients, 200 clients, and then in blocks of 200 up to 1,000, and in blocks of 250 clients up to a maximum of 2,000. And beyond that, there's a different pricing model which we can discuss on a sort of one-to-one basis. So I can't really give you an indication of what an average price might be because it is very much dependent on the number of clients that you have. But obviously, we'll be happy to give you pricing. We can book another a one-to-one session. We can have a conversation and a scoping call around your specific requirements and needs, and I can give you some indication of pricing at that point, and we can follow that up with a tailored demonstration if that's appropriate. Anything else, Lee?
One final question was, are there any additional costs for individual AML checks?
Yes, there are, and again, that's a banded approach. So depending again on the number of AML checks that you're doing, then yes, that would be on top of the CCH Central costs.
That was it. No more questions?
That was it. Excellent. And it is 11:59. We said that the session would last an hour, so in fact it's just clicked over to 12 o'clock. So I'm not quite sure if we could have timed it better if we tried, Lee. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us this morning. We'll follow up with you. Hopefully we can book in some one-to-one conversations. Be interested to hear about your specific requirements, your needs, and what your challenges are and how we might be able to help you. So look forward to doing that in the coming days. But again, thank you very much for this morning, and look forward to speaking to you soon. Thank you very much, Lee. Bye for now.
Thank you, everyone.